welcome back to Aging Well with Alice, your co-host. Today we are having a very special guest, Nina Vasan from Stanford University. She's a psychiatrist and an entrepreneur and pioneer of
digital mental health innovation.
Digital mental health innovation. Thank you so much. We've had one day to prepare, unfortunately.
Not even 24 hours.
Not even 24 hours. Thank you so much. She is the co-author of an Amazon best-selling book, Do Good Well.
Which we have somewhere here.
Yes, we do have somewhere here. We'll show that later as well. Very impromptu. And the founder and executive director of Brainstorm, which is a lab at Stanford University also for
mental health innovation. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Fabulous. So I mean, basically, I'm a practicing psychiatrist here at Stanford. We are at Stanford University right now in summer, and I'm a clinical assistant professor and practicing psychiatrist. And I do a mix. You know, when people ask, "Oh, you know, you're a professor. What do you do?" I do teach. I teach a couple classes on basically like the entrepreneurship side of mental health. How do you start a mental health company? And what's great about being at the university is we have education school students who want to figure out how to improve mental health in schools. We have law school students who are trying to figure out how to improve legal aspects of mental health, engineers who have built devices to improve mental health, and then of course the class is like a third business school students who all want to start companies, right? So that's one thing I do. But the biggest thing is my lab, Stanford Brainstorm, started about almost 10 years ago on mental health innovation. And really the idea is we are in a mental health crisis right now, especially for kids and teens, but really for everyone, right? And in particular, 60 plus, we're seeing huge increases in suicide and loneliness, right? We have this epidemic of loneliness, and it really impacts everything from how you spend time with your family to your productivity in the workplace and everything. So the whole kind of point of the lab is we have all these, consumer facing technologies, starting with our phones, Apple Watch, right? All these sorts of things. And how do we leverage those technologies to better improve people's mental health? And there are two parts to that. The first is, in medicine, part of the Hippocratic oath that we take is do no harm. Right? So I would never prescribe a medication to someone if the side effects were worse than the benefit that they get. And so similarly, how do we think about social media? Right? How do we think about phone use? How do we think about TikTok and things like that in terms of both doing no harm? Because we do know they have done immense harm, right? Everything from TikTok challenges that lead to people accidentally dying, right, and kids, all the way through, folks who like grandmothers and grandfathers who are trying to figure out like how to best use their phone and everything. So why it's been really interesting, I think, one is we basically partner with these big companies, figure out how do we make their platforms better. They already have millions, if not billions, of people on their platform. So if we can be like ambassadors for mental health and take that to, Pinterest for 50 million people, TikTok's over 1 billion people, even if 5% or 1% of people get better, that's a huge, huge thing. And compared to seeing one patient at a time, every 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, it's a different way to make an impact, I think. And that's really what I'm looking for is how can I make the biggest impact? And this has really felt like by bringing mental health to these platforms where we're all spending many, many hours, right? A lot more hours than I think we want to admit. In fact, last year, 2023, the average person on social media, all countries, all ages, spent, how much time do you think the average person spent on social media? 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Per day, just on social media, not checking your email, just on social media alone, okay? That's the average person. What about your grandchildren, the average teenager? 6 hours what I don't understand is like, you go to school, kids. Like, you go to school from like 8 to 3. So how does the math even make sense that you're using for 6 hours, right? And what's really striking, actually, in addition to that, is we're seeing racial disparities as well, where ethnic minorities, the kids, are spending like 8 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
And just imagine, even if your grandkid is 15 years old and they are spending an extra 2 hours a day on social media, think of what that adds up to, what they're losing out on in the real world, like in-person connection and everything, right? Like playing basketball, like so many things like that. And so our world has changed so dramatically. And I think what we at Stanford Brainstorm just really want to do is see how we can keep people safe, but also make them better, right? Because these platforms are so powerful. How do we use that to improve people's mental health, to decrease stigma, and to make it such that, you know, if you're 6 or 60, that you have a place that's healthy for you and you have a community online that's healthy for you.
It seems like you already have seen quite a lot of results from these platforms as well, correct?
We have, yes. So we, in 2018, that's when things were really launched, was we worked with Pinterest. And again, 450 million people. And basically what we did was we created what's called compassionate search. So basically, if you think about when you're searching for things and you just had a breakup, or you're feeling really lonely and your kids are not calling you, for example, right? Like, what do you do? And before, if you would go search for these things on Google or on Pinterest, you would get maybe like random things that people were posting, like, oh, here are 10 steps to feel better, right? But also, oh, I'm hurting myself, here's how I'm hurting myself, right? So there's a lot of dark content online. And, you know, we're all so susceptible, right? Like, if we're feeling down, if we're feeling sad, lonely, depressed, like seeing something like that is very triggering and could really lead to a downward spiral. And so what we did 3 things. One was we changed it such that if you now search for something like I'm depressed or my boyfriend broke up with me, what do I do? You actually get a set of exercises that you can do in the platform. The same sorts of things that we would do one-on-one if you were my patient, like in therapy, but instead like something that you can do in 2 or 3 minutes on the platform itself, right? Because like, to have to click 20 times, no one wants to do that, right? So it's very easy, very Pinteresty, if you will. So that was one thing. Another thing is, you know, when you you're searching for, you know, a beautiful necklace, okay? And you search for it for 5 minutes, and then you keep getting ads for not only that necklace if you haven't bought it, but other necklaces that look like it, right?
Yes.
And with some platforms, they'll send you push notifications, they'll email you saying, oh, we saw that you looked at this necklace. Here are, 20 other pieces of jewelry that might work for you, right? So you get bombarded with this sort of stuff. And if it's necklaces, that's fine. That can even be helpful at times, right? But if you have searched for something like how to hurt yourself, or thinking about like eating disorders, people are like learning how to be anorexic or bulimic, right? Like, we don't want that out there. And if you then keep getting that over and over again because you searched for it once, that's very, very dangerous, and that's where harm happens. So the second thing that we did was change the user interface and user experience such that if you're putting something that is triggering like that, you won't get it sent to you and things like that. So we treat that differently from beautiful necklace, And then the third thing was we worked with the engineers around changing the algorithm. There's a lot of talk about all of the social media algorithms and how they not only suck you in, but also can dangerously lead to you, finding dark content, basically. And so we worked with the engineers to change the algorithm so it's safer. And what actually happened is in 6 months, there was an 88% decrease in self-harm content.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it really worked, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you do a lot when it comes to the ethics of social media. And you've mentioned a lot of, the more cons. What are the benefits, would you say, to social media?
I'm so glad you asked that because there are a lot of benefits. So first of all, I think education, right? The fact that we're able to learn anything, right? You just, again, whatever platform it is that you go to and you type in what you're looking for, you get a lot of great information instantaneously. So I think education is really fantastic. I think actually maybe even the best thing is community. And I think I grew up in a small town in West Virginia, which is like 6 hours from Washington, D.C. And when I think of my classmates and friends who were LGBTQ, they didn't have a space to talk and feel safe about talking about sexuality or even gender. And now I think what's amazing is being able to go online and connect with other people who have a shared experience, who might not be in your physical community. That really, really helps so much. And I've heard countless stories from LGBTQ, not only teens, but even adults and people who've come out later in life, people in their 60s and 70s who have come out, for example, and they're able to find a community and feel safe and welcome when oftentimes like the family might have rejected them, right? And so I think that's a tremendous, tremendous benefit from social media, no matter who you are, to find your people, right? We all need that. We all need to feel included and welcomed and like a part of the group. It's a part of just human, we're tribal by nature, right? Like that's evolutionarily, sure. That's how we became who we are. So being able to do that online, I think, is a really, really powerful thing. So education, community, I think are definitely like the best things.